Hi, everyone. My name is Georgette Truan. I am I guess, the co-host of the show today for Attorney Davis, and I have Angela. How do you pronounce your last name, Angela? Is it
It, it's pronounced just like gas fuel. It's just spelled real wacky, but it's fuel,
Fuel? Okay,
like
Angela
automobile.
Fuel. Okay, got it. And Angela is also a CPS victim, but I don't want to say victim. I want to say survival because she's still alive, thank God, and she's gonna share her story with us. So, Angela, please let us know what's going on.
Okay. I am a foster parent as well as I guess kinship. That's what I'm seeking right now is kinship. I've been a foster parent for about a little over 4 years. I've taken in many kids. Um, the present case that I'm fighting for right now is my nieces. I had them in 2001 when they first came into care. In October of 2021, I had them for 9 months,
Hmm.
and they've been here as of today for 746 days. In July of 2022, I lived a little over 90 miles away from Texas County at the time. I moved to Greene County due to my medical health. And my oldest niece had proposed, she was my respite provider. She had proposed to take the girls in. She had already a developed relationship prior, and she at the time could not have kids.
Hmm.
So we had a caseworker, my licensing worker, and it had been decided that we were going to start the processing for licensing for her. And that
Hmm.
was in April of 2022. We had been hounding the licensing work or the caseworker, excuse me, many over and over and over from April of 2022 through July of 2022. And of course, I keep all the documentation for everything. And what came up in May was I found out from a kinship licensing that I did not have the proper licensing, that I did not take any of the kinship licensing for state of the Missouri, and that if I did not put in a 30-day notice, my nieces could be removed because I did not have the proper licensing. I only had the traditional licensing for state of the Missouri. So since we were already in the process of looking into my nieces getting licensing, I went ahead and put in my 30-day notice. At
Hmm.
the FST June of 2022, I notified the team. I let them know with the long distance driving, with my niece's medical, things like that. It would just make it a lot easier if they were closer to the district they lived in. My niece was willing to go, my oldest niece was willing to go through the process of licensing. And I developed this all with the team. I let them know, me and my husband were not in it for long distance, long term. We didn't look at this as a long term goal. So that's where we had moved. So I had put my 30-day notice in. The whole team knew this. Susan knew that, I'm sorry, somebody else knew this. Everybody knew this. So we did this. And July came along. Caseworker still was not doing her proper job. She was not going to check the home. She wasn't not staying on top of this. I had to stay on top of it. My niece was messaging her nonstop, her and the supervisor over and over and over. And anyhow, it was still not getting taken care of. Finally, a week prior to when the girls were supposed to leave my home, the caseworker went to the house. She said, "Oh no, I can't approve this home." Now, we knew when my niece was my respite provider, there was issues with the home. We
Hmm.
knew this. We knew the home was going to have repairs. We addressed this in an email. We asked the licensing worker to come to the home and give my niece what needed to be done to the home. I have emails verifying this. The
Hmm.
licensing worker, she never showed up. The caseworker never came out. She just kept saying in the emails, "We'll do those repairs. I'll come out and check." She never showed up. Well, come end of July, when the girls had to be moved, because as I said, I gave the 30-day notice, had to put them into a temporary foster home. That's what it was supposed to be. That's what every message, every email, everything was: temporary foster home. That I had to arrange everything because the caseworker didn't even do that herself, which I have the messages on that as well. So it's supposed to be a couple-week temporary foster home. They required my niece to get a temporary what they called a temporary placement for licensing while she went through the full licensing procedure. My niece did this. My niece got her temporary approval from licensing on August the 10th of 2022. The girls had only been at a temporary foster home for 13 days. My niece contacted the caseworker, contacted the caseworker's supervisor many times. She even got a message from the licensing that said, "Do not contact me. I feel like you're over contacting me." We have this message. The girls were only there for 13 days. She got a message back saying, "The family has COVID. We'll let you know when they're better." The next time we made contact was when I was notified from the foster parent that my niece had COVID. Then she was placed in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
The girls had, one of my nieces had a medical condition. She's very vulnerable to infections. She was placed in the hospital not once, but twice, all within a 45-day time period she was in this foster family's home. Now, never been in the hospital while she was in my care. So in this 45 time period, while my niece was getting her full license, because they never placed her under their temporary license, by October the 23rd of 2022, the girl still had not been placed with her. She got her full license for the state of Missouri. Full license. My niece tried to notify the case multiple times. Would not contact her back. The licensing worker took over the full case file on December the 2nd of 2022. At this point, my nieces had been in care 127 days. Multiple times I'd been in contact with my nieces through their foster parents. I had stayed in communication with the foster parents through March of this year. My niece had repeatedly, multiple times, tried to get a hold of them. She felt scared to contact any further more than what she was doing, because she had been told that if she had contacted the caseworker and the supervisor anymore, that it was harassment. So she did not over contact them anymore because of the nasty email she got from the supervisor and the caseworker, which we have a copy of. So in February of this year, the licensing worker in her county showed up to her house wanting to do the re-up, the quarterly re-up, and showed up, and the girls still had not been placed to her house. She asked, "Where are the girls?" She says, "They've never been placed here." She said, "Why?" She said, "We have no idea why. They've just never been placed here." That was the spring. They started looking into it. They sent another email to the county saying, "Why are these girls not placed here?" The caseworker then sent her an email back saying, "Due to the fact that the girls have been in the home for over 6 months, we are now moving forward with guardianship with the foster parents." She sends an email back to them saying that you have to, by law, through all measures, make the efforts to place these kids with family. She says, "Well, they've been there for longer than this, but we'll have an FST." She had an FST during the fact of when my niece could not be there because she had to be up at the hospital with the baby she found out she was pregnant with. And during all the stress of all of this, went into premature labor and had a baby early, who is now a baby with medical needs. During that FST, it was basically decided and said that the girls were staying where they were proceeding with guardianship, and that they were not going to be placed with family. Then I was contacted by the parents again in July of this year. Never have I been contacted back by the caseworker, even though the caseworker knew when the girls left my home. Multiple times it has been discussed, if it did not work out with my niece, we would take them back. We told her we would go through the classes necessary. We would take them back if it did not work out. We've moved back to the county. I contacted them in July of this year, and I said, "Okay, we will want to start the process with placement for the girls." We did that on the first part of July, and oh man, my life has been turned upside down since we did that. I have a court report in front of me that they did in January of this year. Spoke nothing about how nice we were, how good we were to the kids, how much they thrived in my home. 4 days after I filed for placement, they filed another court report. In that court report, we missed appointments. We complained we did not want the girls. We told them we wanted the girls removed because we could not handle things. We complained about the relationship we had with them girls. It just went on and on and on about how much we did not want the girls, which was never the case. It was never the case. We told them many times that it was much easier if the girls were closer to home, because my niece did have a medical condition, and it would be a lot easier on her if she could drive 20 miles to a visit instead of driving over 90 miles one way to a visit, and then having to go to special appointments 1 to 2 times a month to St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
We were trying to do things to make things easier on our niece. Well, when we started all of this, it just like turned everything. We already had an OHI, which is an investigation. And we had one open from one of our previous daughters, foster daughters. And we've apparently made a few of our foster daughters unhappy, who were older, who I refused to give them money. And they decided to open up a group chat called Take Down the Original OGs. And they've continuously opened up OHIs on us. Well, since this has happened, DFS has talked to some of them, have given them pointers on complaints to file against us. These are teenagers, I might add. This last OHI that was filed against us happened to be one day after we went to court. It was less than 48 hours. We went to the second court against DFS, and another AOHI was open. And when our attorney went and spoke about this, we are now almost 90 days after. And if you know anything about Missouri, OHI is supposed to be closed 45 days. They can stay open continuously after that, but they have to notify the parties involved. Of course, we have not been notified. And the OHIs are open. One, they made an allegation against me because one of the child I had in the home since birth, which they removed immediately for this, was because she fell off of the counter. Now, they said I neglected to take her to the emergency room, and that was neglect. I said, you're right. I didn't take her to the emergency room. I would have taken my own biological child to the emergency room. We were in the middle of flu season was starting. They had the COVID starting back up. She had an autoimmune disease. Of course, I wouldn't have took her. I did everything under protocol. She did not need to go to the emergency room. The very next day, she went to daycare. I had a statement from the daycare provider that stated she was fine. I had pictures of where she had no bruise even. I said, you guys didn't even ask me this. We were 40 days into the investigation before you guys even sat down with us. We have cameras in my home. We have cameras on the outside. Does not only record what in my home, but has audio. These teenage girls said that we were providing them drugs. We were providing them alcohol because my husband has a medical marijuana card that he goes outside and uses. I said, I've sent you guys multiple times. I've had conversations with these caseworkers about issues I'm having. I've got recordings with these caseworkers where I've had a caseworker tell me, don't put it in writing because this is what catches these girls up. And I've offered to supply any of this to you, and you haven't asked me for any of it. Not any of it. She says, well, ma'am, we can't come look at your cameras or ask you for any of your cameras because, that could be, you could have altered that. I said, ma'am, I always had an open door policy with any of my caseworkers. Through the OHI investigations, before this one, I've never had a kid removed from my home during an OHI. Never one time. Until I made a threat to you guys about involving an attorney, I've never had a kid removed from my home. Until you've seen my attorney show up in court against you, never once have I had a kid removed. Never once have you showed up for any additional visits. So if you were so threatened, or if you felt like any of my kids were at harm's way, why did any of you not show up for a surprise visit? Why did not any of you all go show up at the school and talk to my kids privately? If you thought there was something going on in my home, why did you not come check on my kids, surprise them? Why did you not go talk to my kids? These caseworkers, every one of my teenagers have their own cell phones. The caseworkers have their numbers. You guys have CASAs. You guys have Chafies. There's so many avenues that these kids could have talked to somebody or they could have called my kids. I said, come on now. I said, the only reason all of this is all of a sudden starting is because you guys know that I am not going to sit back and take this anymore. I had to go out and pay for an expensive attorney to go after you when you knew that my nieces should have been placed with my older niece back in October of 2022. I should not even be sitting here. I finally got a meeting with the supervisor, and she openly admitted to me, yep, you're right. It was our fault. We had a shortage in the office. We're sorry about that, but we can't go back there.
What?
That's what she told me. That's what she said. We can't go back there. I said, okay, so what are we going to do to fix this?
So basically, they keep making the same excuse that they're short, they're short, but yet
Mhm.
they're not saying that when they keep stealing children and putting them in group homes and making money off of them, and it's like the children became just nothing but just merchandises that just sells. That's all it is.
Yep.
And for the
Yep.
teenagers to be placed in group homes, which is owned by judges. Some judges own, did you know that? Some judges owns group homes in
Yep.
California. Did you know that?
There's
Did you
one
know
of
that the group homes are literally used for trafficking children? Um,
That's actually somebody told me when I kept telling them when I
mhm.
asked for help. They asked me, they go, don't even tell me what county you're in. And I said, well, which county? They said, I bet you it's Texas County because they're one of the biggest child traffickers in the county. And I
It
said,
is.
yep.
It is. Actually, so California is the heart of the business for trafficking, right? And then Texas is either they're transported to Texas, and from Texas they divide them,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
that's how it works.
It, it's terrible. And Missouri is just, it's terrible. Here in Missouri, we have so many, it's disgusting. It is so
Mhm.
disgusting. Like, even, I literally went
In
from, I had a
Texas, in
newborn.
Texas County, in Missouri, in your county, how many? I don't know if you've done your research, but how many group homes do they have in that county?
Well, we're supposedly only have one, but I've been finding out that there's at least three, is what I've been told now. I've supposedly there's only supposed to be one,
You should
but some,
research who owns them, who owns the group homes, because oftentimes the government, like somebody who works in the government, owns them.
yeah. Well, the guy who owns this one's pretty big in the government too, as well.
Really?
So
Okay, there you go. Yeah, I didn't
it's
know that
disgusting.
in your county.
It's
I just know
disgusting, and
Texas and California, but I haven't really done my research on all other states and counties as well when it came to that.
well, that's what I was told. He has a lot of dealings with things within the county, so it doesn't surprise me. And it's just, it makes me so angry. And two of the foster kids, after they left my home, which that's how I found out about the group they have started on texting and whatnot, where they've called it the Take Down the OGs, has actually sent me screenshots of the conversations. And she begged me, after she filed the OHI, she begged me. She's like, Angie, I'm so sorry. She's like, I can't believe I got talked into this. And she's like, I thought it was going to be so different. And then another one told me that she was promised that she'd be on her own and living in her own apartment, and all these promises just to take me, like, just to come after me. And I'm thinking, that is so sad that they would want to use, like, these are kids that are brought into the system of no fault of their own. And here you've got grown adults who are caseworkers, just because they're angry, or just because they're mad or want to get back at another adult, they're
Hmm.
using these kids. Like, that's terrible. And then I come to find these out, and then this last week we had a meeting, and I'm told in this meeting that for a birthday for one of my nieces, that I can't go to a supervised birthday, a supervised, because they don't feel it's safe for the girls. They don't want to reintroduce family, because what if they don't get placed back with family?
How old
And I'm
are those
thinking,
girls? How old are they?
one's going to be 5 and the other one's 3. 5 and 3. 5 and 3 years old. Do you know some of these girls haven't seen their own cousins and since they've been in care for 200 or 746 days?
Yeah, I believe you. I believe you.
That's terrible. And when they said that in this FST, I'm thinking we're family. Even if they were to get adopted by these people, which is absolutely what we're fighting for,
Mm-hmm.
are you telling me you're wanting them to be kept from family?
Yep.
Like, this is disgusting. Like, we're sitting here paying thousands of dollars to fight for our family. This would be like if there was nobody fighting for these kids. This is family fighting for the, and we're not criminals. We're not out here robbing banks, doing drugs. We're I mean, yes, my husband got in a motorcycle accident by a hit and run, I might add. Yes, he has his you don't even know why he has his medical marijuana card. You don't ask. You don't know anything. You don't care. You just want to sit here and try to use that against us. But yet I have cameras in my house.
But they're
I
not
have,
supposed to use that against you. See, what
oh,
you
they are.
guys don't understand is that the system is taking advantage of people because you guys don't know your rights. They're
Right.
not supposed to use that against you, but the reason they use that against you because they know you can't afford to hire the biggest attorney in the United States. Why? Because money is limited. And they know that if you don't settle for their if you have a juvenile dependency attorney that's free assigned to you guys, they're working for the state, they're working for the county, so basically
Oh,
that's a losing battle right there.
absolutely. Well, as soon as they seen that we weren't one of those people and we
Mhm.
had paid for an attorney, that's what happened with the little girl I had. That's what happened when they seen me walk in there with a paid attorney. I'm not kidding you. 48 hours. I had them knocking at my door and they went and took her. I didn't even get to say I had this baby since NICU. She had just turned a year old and I've had her since birth. And they took her from me, and their logic behind taking her from me was because they heard she fell, which happened 3 weeks prior. 3 weeks prior. And they found out from a teenager she fell, and they were doing it because of her safety. They didn't let me tell her bye. They didn't let me give like nothing. And then their excuse was for her safety. And my daycare provider asked them, well, can she take her blanket? Can she take her diapers and her? No, no, that she can't take any of that stuff. And then they tell the grandma she's not allowed to call me to find out how to use her breathing machine. She's not allowed to call me to find out how to use her medicine. None of that because I was mad. The grandma later on finally reached out to me, and we weren't mad at each other at all. I'm like, this is about a baby, and then we find out that DFS is trying to keep me and the grandma away from each other because we found out later on this whole time that they were telling me one thing, telling grandma another thing, just to try to keep us at odds. Now we find out that we're not bad people at all. Like, we like each other, but they still want to tell her one thing and tell me another thing, just to keep us to hate each other. And we're like, this is terrible. This is like, and they do this all the time. They don't want foster parents and parents to communicate. They don't want things to work out. They don't want reunification. They want to keep things separate. They want to make sure those foster parents can get guardianship or they can adopt these kids out so they can make their money. They don't want to reunify. They want to make sure these kids stay away from their parents because in a lot of cases, these kids can go back home. But they don't want that to happen. They want to keep things fighting. They want to keep at odds. They want to make money. And that's awful. And I
When
feel
you said you
more,
became a foster parent to be able to keep your nieces, your is that why the kids?
I became a foster parent because I was a product of the system.
So
I
you wanted
became a
to help
foster
those children.
Yes, I became a foster parent because I was a foster child. And when I was a foster child, I never was in a foster home where I felt like I belonged. I was never in a foster home where I felt like I was a part of a family. So when I became a foster parent, I wanted to make sure whatever kid I had in my home, I supplied what my kids had. If my kid had a $500 prom dress, I supplied my other kids a $500
Oh,
prom dress. I could show you pictures of my foster kids with my children. You would never be able to identify them apart.
oh,
Was I perfect? Absolutely not. I made mistakes every day. I was just talking to a lady today that me and this one girl, she's thriving, was outside my home, and it took me a long time to realize that I fought so hard for that puzzle to work, that I was fighting for that puzzle because I wanted that to work. And I realized that maybe that child didn't work in my home because that puzzle didn't work. It didn't mean that there was something wrong with me or her. It just meant that that didn't fit, and that was okay. But I became a foster parent because I wanted to help. I didn't ever want a child to feel unwanted or unloved. That was the reason I did it. And now I absolutely regret what I put my family through. I hate it.
You didn't.
I
I
hate it.
know. I know how you feel. And let me just say, what you did is great. What you did is great because you wanted to give love to those kids who are in foster home because you were there yourself and you knew you were being treated like an outsider. You never. How was that protecting the children? Because when you were there, you were not treated like one of their kids. You were treated like somebody completely different and a stranger. And you wanted to make a
I mean,
difference. So I know you
when
hate
I
the fact that
was
they
there,
turned against you. Go ahead.
yeah, when I was in care, they would lock the snacks up. Like there was never an equal. Their kids got to go do stuff. I stayed home. There was never, we got to watch TV with them. They had a movie night. There was never an equalness. And when I took in foster care, I actually never wanted teenagers because I had my own. And I thought that I wouldn't do service to them because I was still trying to figure out how to be a parent to my teenagers, because I never had good parents. And I actually got pregnant at 16. And when I found out I was pregnant, I told my daughter, and myself, when I was pregnant with her, I was like, I was never going to let my baby feel the way I felt. I was never going to let her feel unloved or unwanted. And when my husband finally gave in and let me do foster care, I really went in it with the right goals, and I made mistakes every day. Like I'm not perfect by any means. Like I'm not a perfect person,
No one
but
is.
I want a child in my home to feel loved and to feel wanted, and I tried so hard. And I didn't install cameras in my home or outside my home because I wanted to make anybody feel unwanted or safe. I did it because I wanted them to know that if DFS ever made an accusation, they were protected. Because when I was a kid, I didn't have that. It was the foster parent against me. And I wanted them to know that it wasn't like that. And here it's the opposite. Now it doesn't matter if I have cameras or not. It's them against me. It's them against us. And they don't even care about the foster parents. So I get that the parents are treated badly a lot. Like, I get that. But sometimes the foster parents are treated just as badly. So when everybody's out there talking about how bad they treat their parents, the foster parents sometimes are in the exact same position. Because I can speak truthfully when I talk about the parents that I try. I do. If it is positive reunification, I will encourage every relationship. But I will not encourage a negative relationship. If it is not good, I will not encourage it. It does not matter how hard someone tries to push that on me. I will not. If it's not good, I'm not encouraging it. And just like with the baby right now, I wish that I would have not listened to DFS. I wish that I would have, on my own, seeked out and found that relationship with her grandmother on my own. And man, I would have I would have nurtured that more, I would have nurtured that more on my own, but I didn't. I listened to DFS. I
Mhm.
listened to what they said in my ear, which then in turn made a battle between me and the grandma. And it wasn't even about that. And it took me losing her to build that relationship. And now I've realized she's not a bad person.
See?
And
See?
it just
Yep.
made me realize how crazy it is that DFS literally can manipulate and drive and try to it's so sad.
It is.
It's so sad. It's
CPS will make
so
a family member so bad. They will paint this picture of them to be so bad that they turn against their own family, like family turns against the parents, basically. And the parents become alone. They become like alone. They're alone in life. Some of them become homeless. They sleep in their cars, and they lose their jobs. They lose everything they have. And they lie continually about the parents, to the point that
Mhm.
foster parents begin to believe the hype that
Mhm.
CPS writes down. And that's the point, that's what the purpose of this show is, and my shows, Angela, is to expose the ugliness, because there are kids who need help, there are kids that needs to be removed from the system, and I understand that. However,
My
the kid,
is needed to be removed. Like
right,
my niece is 100% needed to be removed.
right.
Absolutely, hands down. I agree with that. But I feel like they did what they were supposed to do. But we're now almost 3 years in, and like they've done literally every single thing that DFS has asked of them. They have literally went to every class. My brother-in-law has paid for a lot of them out of pocket. And do you want to know what they told him, and which is on recording? I have told them literally to record everything from here on out. On recording, he has it to where one of the caseworkers told him, "We don't think you got enough from the class we sent you to, that you paid it out of your pocket. So we're going to make you go to another class that's the same class at a different location, and that one doesn't count." So he's starting additional parenting classes because they don't feel those were efficient. Now, in some of his visits he gets with his daughter, she called her private area vagina, and he's a guy. He got reprimanded because he said, "Well, let's call," like he said, "Oh, let's call it your girl area." Because he's a dad, he got reprimanded and told him that if he does that to her one more time, they will right then shut the visit down, and they will not let him see her because that
So
is not what he should be.
basically, right, but that's something a father would never say. And a father would
That's
never address his daughter's private part with the actual name of the private part. No father in the whole entire world, unless they're pedophiles, unless they're offenders, and
That's exactly what I said. I said my husband wouldn't even go to my children of any age and said, "No, let's call that vagina." He's going to say, first off, as a mother, I would have said, for one, there's a time and a place we're going to call our areas
yeah.
vaginas. And you know what I'm saying? It's going to be in our private home. There's a time and place we discuss our private parts. But, anyways, these girls are old enough to know when it's the right and wrong. But
Hmm.
and that doesn't even start the logic. Like, first off, y'all are not counselors, you are caseworkers.
I
You
know.
need to stick to, so don't sit here and educate and try to counsel these parents as parents. That's not your job. You stick to
Mm-mm.
your job. If you have an issue, then why don't you let a counselor supervise the visit? But of course they don't want to do that. They literally write everything down, and then at the end of the visits they will tell them what they need to do better. If they don't change that, then they talk about canceling a visit. The newest thing they've done now is write in their parenting plan or their parenting court report is they think their visits are too long. They're 4-hour visits. They think they're too long on the girls. Now, we are trying to get placement of the girls. We live 15 minutes from them. They've got them placed an hour away. They do 4-hour visits. This is 6-hour visits between the drive and back. It's
Hmm.
too hard on the girl. So I'm thinking, okay, well, why when you place them with closer foster parents, one, that would be a solution. I don't know. It place them with their family. That's another solution that's 15 minutes away. Instead, they're talking about shortening the visits, taking time away from the parents. So our goal is reunify, and your objective is to shorten visits, take time away from the parents. Like, how does this make any sense? You've literally, you're taking things away instead of giving them when they're literally following everything. They have not had a positive drug test since for the last year and a half. They've followed what you've asked of them. They've got jobs. They've got a place to live. They've been doing parenting, and next to his domestic, next to his anger man, anything they have requested of him, he has literally followed down to the T. He's still not got unsupervised visits. She still has not got an unsupervised visit. Instead, they're now trying to say the visits are too long. I'm like, you're not here for the parents. And then you wonder why they're trying to say, let my brother and sister-in-law adopt my children because I don't want to have to deal with you anymore. So now they're literally we have an attorney, they have attorneys, we're all saying we want to adopt them, and then you start fighting us on it. Like I don't understand. It's just a corrupt, and we have so much evidence of corruption just by what they've done. And every single time, it doesn't matter how many reports I file, how many complaints I file, every single time I turn around, you know what they tell me? It's the team's decision. It's the jurisdiction's decision. It's corruption. It is
Yep.
literally corruption. How at that point is it just their decision? Like, we have evidence of corruption.
Yep.
Like, come clean house, come in there and clean.
Unfortunately, a lot of people out there don't see the real story about behind children and family services. There are some good foster parents out there. I guarantee you there are really good foster parents. And there are
Oh,
great moms and great dads out there. However, what they do is they use the system for also easy adoption, meaning there's two homes. There's foster homes for placement and there's foster homes for adoption. Okay. Now they encourage these people to become foster parents to adopt because it's cheap. It's so basically the benefits goes for CPS money wise, and the parents that wants to adopt is they don't have to have $80,000 in their account to adopt, right?
mm-hmm.
So it's a win-win situation. CPS wins and the adopted parents win. Now they tell a lot of stories to the adopted parents. The mother was on drugs. The mother abandoned the baby. The mother, blah blah blah. Whatever the story they want to tell, that's what the adoptive foster parents know. When it comes to drugs, they always frame mothers. And I'm just letting you know because I know you were a victim, but you know from your parents too. But I'm talking about the ones who are not, they've done nothing to their kids. They literally would take their children, tell the children their parents don't want to see them. They don't want to have anything to do with them. When the parent is doing everything they can to see them and spend time with them. I've seen children go through 4 months without seeing their mother, and their abusive father who had custody of them said to them that their mom didn't want to see them. That
It's awful.
traumatizes the children. But social workers
Yeah,
always give the children to the abuser if the abuser is the other parent, believe it or not. So
terrible.
it depends on the circumstance, it depends on the people, going through it. But the thing about it is, when a parent gets the children, it's always the abuser having them. They
Well,
never.
I've I've told our attorney and anybody who will listen, I am going to fight, and I'm going to fight until I can't fight anymore. And
Mhm.
then when I'm done fighting, I'm done doing fostering. Like, I won't do it anymore because I don't want to work in a system because I'm not helping. I don't feel like you at this point. I don't feel like you're helping,
Yeah.
and I will help fight those out there that need someone to speak for them, because a lot of I've found other families who go through this, it's the lack of knowledge and the lack of I just say knowledge. It's a lack of knowledge, and then it's the lack of knowing they can. You know, I've one of the parents that of one of the kids I've had, after she's went through this, she's just so beat up. She doesn't even feel like she can do it.
I know.
And that's heartbreaking. Like, I don't judge. I don't feel like it's my place to judge the parents. They're going to do their thing. It's their life. If they did wrong, they did wrong. That's their thing.
Yeah,
And
but
these
a
kids, when
lot
they
of parents, yeah, but they don't deserve to lose their children. It depends on the crime. Now, I understand that parents, would lose their children if, they murder people for a living, or they molest people, women, or, they rape people or whatever. But it has to be some serious crime deserving such a thing. Meaning The children have to be starving. The children have to be locked up in a bedroom somewhere, and getting beaten and burned with cigarette buds and all that. That's imminent danger. That's what imminent danger is. But having a teenager report you, or because you took their cell phone, or because you took their tablet, or what have you, that's wrong. But what I have seen, the system brainwash the children from young age. So when they grow up to be age 12 or 13, they tend to think this is the true identity of their mom, or this is the true identity of their dad, right? So
That's
basically, even children are in denial to think, okay, well, maybe CPS was right. Maybe my abusive dad is right. Maybe mom is crazy, or maybe, whatever. But do you understand what I'm saying? They make the children suffer with PTSD. Um,
I
yeah.
I agree 100%, because the reason I can say that is because as a foster parent and as of taking in these children, I can say that I believe what I'm told. So when a caseworker comes in and they tell me a story on a child, I believe what they tell me. So when a child asks me questions, I agree with that. I tell them what I'm told. And they don't give me case files. They don't give me anything for me to go off of. I tell them what I'm told. So I almost feel like we as foster parents, we help that. We help caseworkers. And until this all happened to me, I didn't actually have a light opened up to me to see how much lies, how much how many so much false information is given to foster parents about families, about reasons why these kids are in care, why we're helping them, honestly. Like, we're helping them keep the kids away from their parents because we're really not told all the information. We are only given what the caseworkers want to tell us. And
Mm-hmm.
then we're helping them tell these kids what they want to hear. Like, honestly, that's the God to honest truth. When a caseworker comes to me and they say, "Oh, don't write that down, that you called me and told me that this girl has been high and has been smoking weed for a week on a dab pen, don't put that in their case file because that will, jam them up for the rest of their life." But really, I'm not helping that child. I'm not helping her. I'm enabling her. When you're telling me that this child comes into care because this mom did this and this and this, is those facts? Or am I just going along with your story?
Think
And
about
when
it.
I started,
I want to, Angela, not to, I don't want to interrupt you, but think about what you just said right now. I want you to think about what you just said. You said that they're enabling the child, correct? Okay.
yeah,
Okay. I want you to think about how like why they're enabling a child. Think about a demonic person. Think about evil. What does
hmm
evil want? What does evil want? Evil wants destruction, correct? There's destruction
yes,
behind evil. Okay. When I tell you guys they're possessed by demons, demons live in them. I'm
hmm
talking about social workers, DAs, judges, in juvenile court, um, court appointed attorneys, because they're so evil to do this to a child. A child needs guidance. A child needs discipline, healthy discipline. A child needs to be able to distinguish what's right and what's wrong, and be able to do the right thing without them being pushed, or coerced, or threatened to do the right thing. Children learn
hmm
from us. When we neglect them, we're going to answer to a higher power. That higher
right,
power is God. So God gives us children, while others can't even have a child.
right,
So to me, if you neglect them, and that's what CPS is doing, they want them to get pregnant at age 16. Why? Because they want to come after their kids. That's how the system works. When you belong in the system, you come out of the system, you get married, you have kids, they're gonna come after you. But in your case, you already handed them your services. You became a foster
hmm
parent. So
yep,
you're already there. But they were gonna come after you either way, Angela, because you have young children, and you already know having young children at a certain age they're adoptable.
hmm
So what they did to
Well,
other mothers, they did to you.
right.
Okay.
Well, I agree with you 100%. And the biggest takeaway from all of this that I've learned is, I don't know, maybe part of me being in the system, maybe the part of me not having someone to fight for me. I don't know. I don't know what's made me get to a point in my life where I've always been the type where I will fight back. And I'm just kind of, I'm gonna fight back. And like last week on Tuesday, I woke up and I've said I've had enough. And I reached out to the director's office and I told him, I said, the next call I will make is the news, because if you will not do something, I will do something. I am tired of you all beating me around. I'm tired of you all not shining a light on what is going on. If you're not willing to do something, I am willing to do it myself. And I mean, and of course, I guarantee you it'll stop after I stop putting pressure on. But I'm just tired of it. I just feel like there's so much corruption and it's affecting so many children and so many families. And there's no reason for this. I thought when I was a kid, it was bad. I truly did. I thought, man, when I was a kid, it was terrible. Like I suffered. But now it's so much worse. Like it is
Hmm.
so much. How can it be so much worse with so much programs and so much things we could be doing?
But I want to
And it's
I
so,
want to ask you something. How was it worse for you when you were a kid? When you were received when you were in CPS custody, how old were you?
oh, I was in and out of care from the time I was an infant.
And did they tell you what was the reason?
My mom was an, well, I knew the reason. My mom was an addict. And I was in and out between my granddad's home, my mom's home, and foster care. Back
But
then, the system was
how
very,
old were you when you were aware of
the
your
first time
family?
I remember being taken was when I was about 7 years old. I really individually remember an event that reminded that I knew I was in care. I think there was more memories before that, but I don't want to say that I was, but I remember a specific event when I was 7 when I was in care. Like I said, back then, the judges were very forgiving of parents and wanted the child at home. And the wanted foster care was more of a suit back then than your grandparents' house. So it was a fight back and forth between my mom's foster care and my granddad's. So I was in the system a lot. And when I say back then, I thought it was a lot worse than it is now. I say that because back then I fought a battle of abuse, physical abuse, um, a lot of different types of mental abuse. Now it's more of a mental abuse because of the way the adults who control the system. Then I thought it was more foster parents abuse, if that makes sense. You know, then it was more the physical abuse that I received from the foster parents, if that makes sense. I didn't have to deal with this the other side of it. I just knew that I kept having to go back home and foster care instead of going to my granddad, where I thought I should have been.
Hmm.
Now it's more of adults, the system. It's more of the system. And I just can't believe the amount of corruption and the amount of, I can't understand. I can't understand how how bad it is now from when it was then. It's just it's so bad. And it shouldn't be, because there's so many abilities to make it better. And
What
it's,
year? What year were you in the custody of CPS? What year were you born?
I was born in 82. Like I said, I remembered the first time when I was about 7. But I know my granddad had papers when I was in and out of care from the time I was 1.
Mm.
When he passed on, I found more papers. But I remember a specific event when I was 7. And that was when my stepdad, I called the cops on him and my mom fighting. And he had a knife to my mom's throat. And I had a gun to him. And DFS was called, and I called my granddad. He couldn't come. They wouldn't let me go with him, and instead I went to a foster home. So I remember that. That was a pretty and tragic. Like I remember that event, and even now, like there's details of my that still affect me now from when I was a child. But that was the whole reason I started this. That's the whole reason I went into foster care. And I went into it so nobody ever had experienced that. And
I
then,
want
like,
you, yes, you then you experience the pain that others feel currently.
yes, absolutely.
I just want you to know the system went sour, um, beginning of 2000 and yeah, like around 2007, 2008. Hillary was in office with Obama, and that's when it got worse. And
Okay.
because she finished what her husband, you know,
Bill, yeah.
yeah, built. So basically, they got more immunity, more, I mean, more funding. They got more money. So a social worker now gets $4,500 per child removed from a home, meaning the social worker gets that child instantly the money. I mean, she gets the money instantly when that child is removed.
Okay.
A lot of social workers say BS. Um, we don't make that much money, all that. But look at the cars they drive. Just look at their cars, the cars they drive. If a social worker makes $30,000 a year, like they claim they do, which is a lie, because I did my own research, and I found out social worker makes $197,000 a year.
Wow.
Okay. And that social worker gets bonuses on the side as well, $4,500. In California, I don't know about other states. Other states, maybe 28 or 3,800, maybe something like that. So it's close to two from two and a half. Okay, so 2,500 up to 4,800 bonuses they get for every child removed. That's a social worker. That's why social workers lie. This is exactly why, because of the money. Without the state and the county getting that money in, they're not going to have jobs. We're talking about job security. Let me explain it again. Job security to police officer, nurses, doctors, teachers, psychiatrists, therapists, court appointed attorneys, DAs, and
Yep.
judges. All of this is so important to them. They need their jobs. So what do? They get as many children as possible. Now, the children who are not being abused, they want them to be in an adoptive home. The children who are being abused somewhat abused, not really abused, but when I say somewhat abused, meaning the child is being disciplined because the child ran away from school, or the child beat another child up, or the child electronic devices was removed from them. That's kind of like, to them it's abuse, but not really. The children who are really being severely abused, they get numerous reports from neighbors and strangers like, hey, this home is weird. There's like only, they have 8 kids and one only I see out, right? 21 reports were made, not one visit. And you know what they wrote in the report, Angela? Unfounded. Unfounded abuse. It's not there. We were there at the house when they never came to the house. Never went to the house, I mean. So basically, out of 8 kids, the neighbors see only one kid out, or 7 kids out, and the other one is missing somehow. And the CPS would lie because they don't want these kids. These kids are damaged to them. That's how they evaluate it. That's how their little mind sees it. These kids are damaged goods. They don't want them. So what do? If they have to take them, they would place them in a placement home,
Well,
a
that
home
well,
that doesn't want to adopt.
I mean, most of all of mine were all teenage, and I didn't have a single issue. Like my OHIs before this last one was all unfounded. I
Mm-hmm.
had two, and I had teenagers who all had prior issues.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I have cameras in my home, and I've always had one of the things my licensing worker just told me the other day. I've always had an open door policy with every single one of my caseworkers.
Yep.
With everybody. My licensing worker has just told me, she said, Angie, you've always been cooperative. If there's ever been something changing, well, you would change it. I don't understand what's going on. I said, have you said that to anybody? Have you said that to a judge? Have you said that to anybody that it matters? Like, why have you not said that to anybody that it matters to? I said, has that not raised questions to anybody? Then all of a sudden, I start questioning and wanting my nieces who are under the age of 5. And all of a sudden, I get this OHI that's not going away. And because I'm calling out caseworkers for not doing their job for corruption, and then all of a sudden I have this OHI that's causing me problems when I've offered you to come view my cameras, when I've offered multiple recordings of this corruption, when I've
Mhm.
offered multiple pieces of evidence why one of them might have tested positive for marijuana, when I've offered many times for these girls that have had these issues that these caseworkers have known about, recordings where they have told me not to document them, yet all of a sudden it's now an issue. I said, what else did you want me to do? Well, we just have to go through the process. Well, you're not going through the process. You're obviously not going through the process, because if y'all were going through the process and following your own policies and your own procedures and your own guidelines, we would not be here. If you were going through the right policies and the right procedures, my nieces would have been in their home no later than October the 23rd, 2022. We would not be here. I would not be out $15,000 for an attorney that I should not have to be paying. I would not have got a 1-year-old removed out of my home because I ticked some caseworkers off because I made them mad. We would not be here right now. If you all would be doing your job, I would not have to be going through this right now.
They don't care though, but they
No,
don't care.
and that's why I won't be foster care. And she's begged me. I said, I will not do this. I'm done. After I will still fight for my nieces. I don't care if the judge rules against me. I will appeal it. I will continue to fight until I cannot fight anymore. And she says, well, Angie, why would you put yourself through this? You know you're medical. I said, I don't care. I will do this till the day I die. That's what.
Wow. Why would you put yourself through this?
That's
Wow.
it.
That's
She said,
how little they see our kids as. I mean,
yeah,
just for her to even say something like that, that woman, there's no way that woman is a mother.
no. She
No,
has
I
2 kids.
bet you anything she's 20 or 21.
She's got 2 kids. She's been doing this. She's a supervisor.
She's supervisor. That explains a whole lot. Well, you know what? Like God tells us, do unto others as it would be done unto you. As yeah. So
Yep.
if that's her karma, if this is how her life is, then I pray over for
Yep.
God's mercy over her kids.
I do too. And
Because,
I would.
honestly, that woman, anyone that works in that department in any state or any county, they're going to have to face God's wrath. If they have children, they're going to have to reap the consequences, because God's word is a lie, is not a lie. It's actual truth. And when his words are fire coming out of his mouth, they think God is joking. God is not a joke.
Nope.
One day you're going to hear something about these social workers that did this to you and these kids, or any social workers. It will come and haunt them in ways they will remember your name, believe it or not. When you face God's wrath, God puts memory in you, right? The memory that you have of all the people that hurt you, it's like a projector in front of you. You see it. You hear their name. You hear it as you go through the suffering. Do you understand what I'm saying? That
Oh,
is that is horrible to know how many people you hurt, how
mhm.
many children you destroyed, how many people you stabbed in the back.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like every day, I tell them all every day. I say, I'm not a perfect person. I'm not I'm not, I make mistakes every single day. But I went into this with the most positive, with the most, I wanted to do the best I possibly could. And I have invited you. I've had an open invitation in my home from the start of this. I've always had cameras. I've always had an open, not just for myself, but for the protection of my children. And there's nothing, I've even got them in my car. I more than I possibly protect myself. And it does not matter. You don't want the truth. You don't want the facts. You just want to manipulate your truth to protect your lies. That's all you want. And I'm going to do everything that I can to protect my nieces. I will do everything that I can protect the children that I've come in contact with and the children that I'm going to come in contact with. I'm going to keep fighting for them, and I'm going to keep fighting for the people that I come in contact who need the help, that has no voice, because you guys have taken it from them. And I will do that until the day I can't do it any longer. And I started this for foster parenting, and maybe the good Lord upstairs is telling me I need to go a different direction. and that's the direction I will go. And you know, I feel like I failed as a foster parent, and I will continue the fight, but I'm not gonna let it down. I will not lay down to DFS. I will not do it. And for my licensing worker to tell me why would I do that to myself, I will do that to myself because I will do it for my nieces. I will do it for every other child that someone's not doing it for, that there's nobody else doing it for them. And
But
that's going to keep.
they don't ever bow down to a demon. And I just want you to know, when God is with you, you will be okay. You will be fine. But God will help you through this fight. And honestly, I would love for you to come back again, Angela, and help other foster parents who became foster parents, especially to be able to have placement of their nieces and nephews. And there's so many out there like this. They don't have to be foster parents to have placement. However, CPS wants them to be foster parents because that's the only way to get the money from the federal side. You know that, right? When they're placed in a foster home, not they don't get incentives if they're not placed in a foster home. They get incentives. Um, they get incentives when they are placed in a foster home. Does that make sense to you? So
That's
basically, that's why they force family members to be foster parents.
right. Well, that's the thing that drives me crazy about the whole. The other day, the lady from DFS says, you won't get any subsidy. I'm thinking, out of all the kids I've had in my home, I go to spend $400 a week in groceries. Every prom dress I spend $600 on a prom dress. Every car maintenance, I said, I've never, ever, a single kid I've ever had come in my home, I've ever spent less than what I get. Their money I get from them is nothing compared to what I spend on my kids at
Right?
all. I said, so for anybody to ever throw a dime in my face, they could look at my bank account because I spent more on those kids than I ever get from you. So I
Yep.
said, you can keep your subsidy. I don't
Yep.
need your subsidy. I said,
Yep.
this is, if I'm going to pay a $15,000 attorney fees that I'm not getting back, unlike your foster parent who you're paying all their fees. I said, I'm not in here for your money. Obviously, I'm in here to get my nieces back with family where they should have been over a year and a half ago. That is
Mm-hmm.
why I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
And of course she didn't say nothing to that. She got really quiet because that didn't fit her agenda. But they all got their agenda, and of course if it doesn't fit their agenda, they try to reframe their agenda.
Right. Well,
So
Angela, you're more than welcome to join us tomorrow night if you like. Or maybe come on my show tomorrow. I don't know the time difference between here and your state, but my show tomorrow is at 1:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
well, I
So
appreciate it. I've been watching some of your shows. I've been actually even going back and watching some of the other ones. I've been taking in a lot of what you've been doing, and I think it's amazing. I mean, letting people come in here and tell their stories and listening and then taking back what you're saying. I mean, that in itself is such a tribute, and it's I don't think that people can grasp what it is you do. So thank you for that.
thank you very much, Angela. And I am so thankful that at least it's touching somebody out there. And to me, that means a lot because the only reason I'm doing this is God is my witness, Angela. The only reason is to bring awareness all over the world on what CPS is all about. CPS is nothing but destruction. And CPS back in the days used to be better, a lot better. But since the money and since even Nancy Schaefer, she was the senator that was murdered for this. Nancy Schaefer was a senator for Georgia, Angela. She
Hmm.
was murdered and they blamed it on her crippled husband
I
that
remember.
he assassinated his wife and assassinated himself. Really?
Right. I
After
remember.
a zillion years of marriage, really? So kind of
Like I
yeah.
said, it's agenda, and if people's willing to believe the agenda, it's just like I said with the 1-year-old. I believed DFS. I kept trusting DFS. It kept tearing a wedge between me and the grandparent until what happened. And then after they took the 1-year-old and the grandma, I actually did not believe them at all. And
Hmm.
she finally called me because she needed help. She needed support. And I said, you can call me anytime. And she's like, oh, they told me not to call you. I was like, why? I'm like,
But
why
that's
would
what they do, Angela. They tell you not to speak to them, and then they tell them not to call you, or they would go to the parents and say the foster parent doesn't want to visit to be 4 hours, or then they go to the foster parent and say that the parents said that you attacked them during the visit. So basically what they do is they put a bad seed between
Mm-hmm.
you and the family to ensure that none of you guys will team up on them. That's what demons do, everyone. Please listen. God made it very clear in the Holy Bible. Demons, they strategize. Strategize. They have strategy. They meet up with the big Satan guy and they come to a strategy. So Satan tells them, "Hey, so did it work in this home? Did this, did you accomplish this? No, but what did you do? What do you do? I did this and this. Okay, well, we're going to take another approach. Another approach. They don't stop. This is a vendetta. The
Mm-hmm.
devil is insisting on taking as many children as possible with him to hell.
Absolutely.
That's all he wants. He doesn't care about your well-being, doesn't care about your kids, doesn't care about he doesn't care. You can't tell a demon, do you care? They don't have a soul. How can they care? They don't have a soul.
Right.
Right? You gotta have a soul. You gotta have a soul to care. You gotta have a
Well,
soul.
none of them have one. None
Exactly.
of.
Not, and that's why he hates us. The devil hates us because we are special to God. We're special to God.
100%
So
agree.
that's why we feel. That's why we have feelings. That's why we have compassion. We have love. We have empathy. We have, well, not all of us, but some of us without empathy are possessed by demons. But we have love. We cry when someone is in pain. That's why the devil hates us. So what does he have to do? He had to put fear and doubt and have us face abuse and neglect and all kinds of trauma to hate God. So we can turn the dark side and say, oh, the devil is the best. God is no good.
Mm-hmm.
When the devil himself is using you. So basically, all this is important for you guys to understand that if you waver away from God, you're literally on your own. So during good times and bad times, you praise Him. Whether you're going through bad or good times, you praise Him. And you will see His work in your life. And I'm not just saying this, I'm saying this because I witnessed this as a child. I witnessed this compassion and love and mercy and miracles. I mean, all this I witnessed. So miracles do happen. Love is merciful. God is merciful. And His love is unconditional. And that is something you guys need to consider. And any obstacles that hits you or face you, look at it and say, your God is in charge. Or be sarcastic with it. Just say, do you not know who my God is? You have to be confident when you say it. Confidence shows your faith, the strength of your faith. That's how God is activated. When He sees faith, your faith. He didn't even say, your faith has to be as big as a universe. He said as big as a mustard seed. Faith. Faith that He is in control. When we let our emotion take over, we literally crippleize. We cripple ourselves because we're not trusting in Him. Even Jesus, I remember this the other night, and when I was in church, after church, I mean Sunday, yesterday, um, when Jesus, they kept humiliating him, and He said nothing to defend Himself, nothing. He let His yes be yes and no be no, and that's how it should be. But He didn't say I'm innocent. He didn't say I'm the Son of God. He didn't say that I'm gonna rise on this third day. I'm here to, take the sins of the people. So God doesn't punish it right away. Remember in the Old Testament, God punished right away. Right
Mm-hmm.
away. So that's why the King, who is Jesus, came to us as a baby. The reason God did this is because He wanted us to walk with His Son, to learn from Him. Learn from Him. So that's why they when the the Pharisees thought this is not the real Messiah, because the Messiah has to be rich with money. He has to be a king wearing a crown. But what they did not see is the heavenly crown isn't here. So, but again, we became victorious because why? The devil didn't know who Jesus really was. He just wanted him destroyed because he was a good preacher. But he didn't know that he was going to be dead on the third day risen, where he was sent to us to take our sins with him to save us. But listen to this. Think about it for a second. If you think say if you think about it, if Satan knew that Jesus was our real um that he was sent to us, he's the actual king of kings, right? Don't you think he would stop the crucifixion? Think about it.
Yeah.
He would stop the crucifixion. And he doesn't want Jesus to save us, to save our sins. He wants us to be with him in hell. So basically, that right there is a victory for us. That's why Easter in the Coptic Christian family is a big deal, because he was risen. That's a big deal for us. So think about it. Devil was not happy at all. So now he's taken different ways to trick us. He'll use the Bible. He'll use verses from the Bible. Tells you think how great, like you're not thinking about it right. It's okay for you to do this. It's okay for you to do that. God is not going to do this to you. It's the same techniques he used with Eve in the garden, right? So just remember, his tricks are many, many. He's a trickery guy. Many demons are with him. So all these that you're fighting, all the enemies, or that you're fighting around you, you're not actually fighting them physically. They're possessed by many demons, not just one, by many. And each one of them have a name. And that's why when they come to you, you get that nice at first, that care at first, that I care about you, you're this, you're that. But that's just a strategy. It's just a strategy. Because in order for you to know everything about a person, you have to have them trust you.
Right.
So think about it, guys. Her husband doing medical situation is not the reason at all. There's mothers who lose their children because the doctor gave them medical treatment that they have to use, and if God forbid if they're pregnant and then the baby is born, the social worker takes that as an opportunity to remove the child or the twins or whatever, and then say that there's drugs in the mother's system. The foster parents think there's drugs in the mother's system when there isn't drugs in the mother's system. They're after babies first.
Hmm.
Babies first. Babies, babies, babies. We're talking about infants up to 4 years old or 3 years old. That's big money for them right there, because they're easily going to forget their parents.
Yep. And that's when they came into care. Was I mean,
Yep.
one of them was 3 and one of them was so.
Yeah. Are you going to join me tomorrow at 1:30?
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
try to do that.
Okay. Just contact Grace again or text her. I'm sure I hope she hears me. Yeah, and let her know. Okay.
I will do that. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Thank
All right.
you.
Have a good night.
You too. All right, everyone. I'm gonna say good night. We're 23 minutes over. I'm surprised Grace didn't just. Nah, she'll probably kill me later. Okay. I just wanted to say hi to my girls. Look who's underdog. My big girl G, and my tiny animal family. My little rat girl. And Lena, I don't remember seeing you before, but welcome to the family. Um, Natalia, hi, my love. I just finished talking to Natalia right before the show. Um, and you guys, if you guys have any requests at all, please let me know. If you want to be on the show, if you want to share your story, please, just either text Grace or you can text me at 626-631-8901. That is my work cell. You can text me your name, email address, and the number you want the producer to contact you on. My tiny animal family here. I just wanted to say I got your message late, baby girl. It was like a few minutes before the show, I think, tonight. All right, everyone. Good night. Love you all. And God bless you. And don't forget to pray. See you guys.